Hello, wonderful people. First and foremost, want to send you all loads of good health and happiness because why would you not? It's a nice thing to do, right? So, it's just a little introductory video to what follows next, which is basically for those that haven't seen any of them, you get the chance to binge watch my prison stories. So, this is the first of two introductions to two separate videos, which I think I'm up to episode 12. I've got a new episode waiting in the wings, but because of the channel switch, so this is, by the way, like and subscribe. I forgot to say this. Welcome to What West Ham channel? That West Ham channel. That West Ham channel. Like and subscribe, please. So, the first part, obviously, the first video that will be following this introduction, I believe, is a shout out to Nick and shout out to the lovely Sam and Louis as well. Pow, pow, love everywhere. Nick's put all this together. So you've got a two-parted videos where the first one is episodes 1 to 6 and then 7 to 12 on the second one. So my disclaimer that I always say in all of the videos anyway, I think Nick cut it out just to save time, is when I tell these stories, it is not about trying to glorify going to prison or trying to pretend that I'm tough, because I'm not. That was never in fact, going to prison definitely highlighted that I'm not tough and I'm all right with that. I'm a nice guy. And yeah, so basically enjoy, please. Reach out if you've got any questions, comments. If you're someone who's struggling with, in fact, I've recently been working with someone who's struggled after getting out of prison, because it is a bit of a change. I did just under 3 years, and it does, life inside prison, life goes on within prison. However, outside, life really goes on, and you sort of do get a little bit left behind, and you can't. It's just the way life works. You know, you do stand still a little bit in regards to the outside world. So if you are struggling with that in any way, reach out. I'm going to take this opportunity as well to shamelessly plug our safe space platform, which is called My Safe Space. So yes, we are West Ham fans and we are geezers and we love football and we enjoy having banter and taking the piss at each other, but we've also got a wonderful platform because we're also coaches. We've got two addiction coaches, the lovely Sam and Louis, that coach from experience, not just from being book smart with addiction. We've got Nick. What a wonderful human being Nick is. He's heading up our neurodivergency and disability section and autism as well. He's that coach and he is fantastic. His story is freaking fantastic, fantastically sad, however, also fantastically uplifting in regards to what he's come through to get to where he is. And you've got myself, that I've worked as a coach for a long time. So you've got my coaching expertise over there as well. So yeah, it's a great platform. It's My Safe Space. Please, when Nick, you watch this, put a link for we've got a free trial with for anyone that wants to have a look at the My Safe Space platform to see what we're doing over there. It's a fantastic platform. It's going from strength to strength. We've got fitness, breathwork, meditation, addiction, get together classes. We've got coaching classes, everything. It really is. It really covers a broad spectrum of mental health and well-being. So thank you very much for listening to me jabbering on. Over to me, or that way, and my prison stories. Enjoy. Have a fantastic day.
So I got banged up in 2002. And I'll quickly touch on what actually happened. So very quickly. So what I got banged up for, I got 2 charges of Section 18. And to put, actually, before I say anything else, disclaimer. There is absolutely no intention from me to glorify going to prison or what I went to prison for. So I'm going to cover that from the off, and I'll probably say that at the beginning of every one of these just to make sure. So for those of you saying, oh, look at him, he thinks he's tough or he thinks he's hard because he's been to prison. No, I don't, because going to prison showed me that I wasn't tough and I definitely wasn't hard. So it's not about glorifying. It's about sharing the experience, because what I did find in prison was myself, because you get put on your own all of a sudden. And I was 21. I just turned 21 when I got banged up. Literally, in fact, the judge, shout out to the judge at Snaresbrook Crown Court on sentencing, actually said as part of sentencing that they knew it was my birthday coming up and they let me have my 21st birthday free. And then I went in a few days later. So as much as I thought I was a man at 21, I was still a little boy. Trust me, I was still a little boy. So I've covered that. There's my disclaimer. So I got banged up for 2 accounts of Section 18 and a lesser charge. Now, that to put things in sort of severity, so you got murder, manslaughter, then you got Section 18. So it is quite a high up charge when it comes to level of violence. However, I actually got charged on something called joint enterprise. So it was pretty much established. I won't go into the complete. Let's put it this way. It's funny enough, about 7 or 8 years ago, and you can Google this, they actually retracted this charge, and loads, and I'm talking thousands of people got let out of prison on the charge that I went to prison for. Another disclaimer, I'm not complaining. I needed prison at that point. As you'll come to learn throughout this series, I definitely needed that experience to make me, to help mold me into the person that I've become today, which, you know, prison was definitely a massive part of that. So they retracted the joint enterprise charge. Now, this charge is a mosquito here, people. I've got to kill it. I can't take mosquitoes. I don't kill anything else, but mozzies, bastard, it got away. Where was I? Yeah, so joint enterprise applies to, or applied to 3 people. So if there was 3 of you, this charge at that point, when I got sentenced in 2002, this charge could be used. So although it was established that it wasn't me that done the main act of violence, if you like, it was my mate, but no one knew my mate. It's interesting, because at the time, I had one of my mates from school, grew up in Forest Gate. I went to Tomwood School. Shout out to anyone who went to Tomwood. My mate from school, his mum and his sister had moved over to Ireland, and he didn't have nowhere to live. So he was living with me in, like, obviously in my mum and dad's house, which was it was a really turbulent time. Mum and dad the divorce had happened, and it was a lot of weirdness going on. And you had my mate, I'm not going to name him, but you had him. I said, you can come live with me. And in the area I lived in, no one knew him, but I was known, not because I was some tough nut at all, just known in the area. You know what it's like as a kid. You move about, you try and pretend you're hard. You move with people, you get to know people get to know you. And, you know, little bits, I was, at that point, I was selling a little bit of weed and all this malarkey. So my point is, people knew me. And when this fight happened at a house party, which was just around the corner from where I lived, about 7 or 8 minute walk, because everyone knew me, everyone just went, James Mannion, James Mannion, James Mannion. And it was my name that got put forward. And I'll never forget, actually, sitting over Wanstead Flats. And those of you that know the area, you know Wanstead Flats. And it was a real surreal moment for me, because I was sitting on a football pitch that I'd played as a kid. I played for St. Mark's, shout out to St. Mark's. And I was sitting on a pitch with the 2 other people that had been part of that evening and that fight, because, as I said, there was 3 of us. And I remember my mate saying, the one that done it, like, oh, you know, it was me. You know, I can tell him it was me, but of course, no, I'm not a grass. I'm never going to grass you up. Like, I'm not going to say anything. What should we do? And he went, well, you know, my mum has moved to Ireland. Maybe we could run to Ireland. So anyway, that's what happened. We actually ran off. So prior, this is going back to when the incident happened, which would have been if I got sentenced in 2002, the incident happened in the year 2000, I believe. And I went on the run. And anyway, to Ireland, that's another story in itself. That's a fucking hilarious story. But anyway, came back 2002, got caught, got sentenced with this charge of joint enterprise. And it's really funny, because when I was going through the trial, my barrister, bless him, he had a really, really bad stutter. Now, thinking back on it, is it the best thing in the world to have the person defending you that's like, don't really know how to say things at the best of times? And that's not, disclaimer, I'm only having a laugh, but these are little caveats. I've not thought about that until I just said it, that it was quite funny. Because I remember being in court, literally as a kid, because I was 21, watching him, thinking, get out, you're meant to be defending me, you can't get a fucking, get the words out. And we felt quite confident that I would get done on the lesser charge, which I always forget. What was the lesser charge? It was, because the 2 Section 18, Section 18 is GBH with intent. to break that down. And the other one was wounded with a tent. That was a lesser charge, which I held my hands up to. So basically, and I'm not proud of this, I clumped someone with a chair stool, not a leg from a stool, a wooden leg. I clumped someone on the head with that, which is fucking awful, and I'm not proud of it at all. That charge was a lot less though than the two GBH with intents, the two Section 18s. I remember because I said, yeah, you know, I did that part I held my hands up to. But what I didn't do was hit the geese with the hammer, because I didn't hit the geese with the hammer, or the two geezers with the hammer. I didn't hit them with the hammer. That wasn't me. So we thought we had quite a good defense. Problem was, this is where karma comes in. Because we'd gone on the run, and that trial basically had been sort of postponed for a couple of years, because the third fella that was with us, he didn't really do anything. And unfortunately, he got, and this is something for the, you know, people say I've got no regrets in life. This is definitely my biggest regret in life. There's a young man that he was, I'll give him his first name, Adam. He was my best mate growing up. Like, out of the two lads that were with me on this thing, Adam, we grew up as best friends, and I severely let him down because me and my other mate went on the run. Adam stayed and faced it like a true man. And because we'd gone on the run, even though he'd done fuck all, he got, I believe, around a 9-month prison sentence in Feltham. Because when we done the crime, like I said, I went on the run for a couple of years. We was only 19, so we was kids. So he went to Feltham, which is a youth detention centre, youth prison, and didn't have a great experience at all. And for the rest of my days, I will always feel like I let down my true best mate. And that's something I'm going to have to live with forever. And I've seen him once since in Butlins, a really random meeting. And if you ever see this, mate, as I said at the time, I'm so sorry. Like, that weighs so heavy on my soul. The fact that we run off and you faced it and you ended up getting a bit of time, which you shouldn't have got. Anyway, so because, like I said, we ran off, it made it worse for me when it came to the sentencing, because there was no way, even though, like I said, it was proven. And do you know what else I've just remembered? How random is this as well? This is true. I had one, and shout out to you, one character witness who came up for me, who was there, who actually backed me up. And do you know who it was? Here's a claim to fame. Plan B. Shout out to you, bruv. Thank you for doing that. He was my, because he was best mates with my younger brother Paul at the time. So he actually came up to Snaresbrook Crown Court, and he testified for me. So shout out to you, bruv, as well. I really appreciate you doing that. Unfortunately, it didn't help because someone had to go down for the main charge, because the kid that got hit with the hammer, and again, what a human being you are. If for whatever random reason you, Mr. Pevers, get to see this, I know what you did with my mum in the pub, Forest Gate Hotel that time. And that meant the world to her, and it meant the world to me. What a man you are, mate. He had his cranium caved in by a hammer, and he was lucky to stay alive. In fact, I remember the night we got nicked, we got taken to Forest Gate police station, and you could hear, because Forest Gate police station was literally 2 minutes away from where I got caught, basically, from at this party. In fact, I'll quickly touch on that, because all of these little caveats, they make a difference. So do you know what happened, right? So to summarize that fight night, we'd gone to a party, and I knew that I was trying to get on with a girl whose birthday it was. I didn't know all the rest of the people there. I know her. My mate came with me. My mate got drunk. My mate is mixed race, and it was a group of lads turned up that were slightly older than us, which we were just a year older than the people that was at the party. And then this next set of lads, a good 8 to 10 of them turned up, skinheads, looking for trouble, in fairness. And they started on me mate. Now, there was definitely a bit of racial undertone there, because Anthony was he was the tallest mixed race thing at the party, and he was drunk and he was chatting to girls, so they thought he was an easy target. So what actually happened was we got a kicking, They started on him. I went in to help him. We got the usual story, getting stamped on, kicked all over the place down the garden. We managed to get away. And I'd stayed sober that night for the reason being that I wanted to get on with this birds whose party it was. And I didn't want to be slurring me words, acting like a knob. So I stayed sober and pissed as a fart. And anyway, we go after getting away. I remember walking home. Feeling relieved to get away. Like that was like, it's one of them horrible moments where you just curled up and you can see, you're looking through, you close your eyes, looking, you can see feet coming down. You just try, someone's trying to pull your arm so someone else can kick you in the face, and you manage to get up, you manage to get away. I'm just relieved at this point. But my mate, he was seething. I mean, mate, he's an hard git. I mean, he was mixed race, half Jamaican. His dad was a lovely yardie fella and half Irish. What a mix of fire that is. And he was seething. And I remember walking back, because like I said, this was a stone's throw from my house. I remember walking back and me just being like, oh man, thank God we got away. And him being like, no, that's it. We're going back. And like inside, like, I'm not saying anything. I'm just listening to him rant. I'm thinking, oh, he can't be serious. Like, and he's, no, that's it. We're going back. We're going back to your mum's. We're going to get some weapons. We're going to go back. And every ounce of my being was saying, no, like, no, I don't want to go back. Like, I'm scared. Fuck that. But of course, my ego, yeah, that's what we're going to do. Yeah. And that's what we did. And what we actually did is we went back. I phoned up my mate, Adam, and I said, look, mate, this is what's just happened. And this is why I feel so bad. I even called it on for him to come round, because my younger brother was also best mates with his younger brother. And basically, they were supposed to be going to this party. So there was also an element of a bit of worry that, oh, shit, if my brother turns up, someone says, oh, that's his younger brother. What if they start? So that's why I phoned my mate. He drove round and I stole my mum's car. I nicked my mum's car. We drove, because the plan was to drive back round there, basically cause havoc, and just come out again. And again, this is what I mean. I want to share everything with you just to show what a knob I was. Right? Do you know what we did? We put on bandanas. What the fuck? We put on bandanas. Yeah, let's put on a bandana. Look even meaner. What a knob, right? Put on bandanas. Drove around in my mum's car. I remember I was shitting myself. Like the adrenaline was fucking, you know what it's like. You kicking, it's bad enough when you're in a fight, but knowing you're going into one where you've just been beaten up, there's more of them, but you're going in anyway. Like the adrenaline was, I thought I was going to shit myself, literally. So we get there, jump out the motor. I just remember my mate, Adam was behind me. I was next. My mate, he led the charge, ran into the house, and all you heard was screaming. I mean, that is all you. And what happened in the space of maybe 4 minutes, 5 minutes, everything went in slow motion. Everything, screaming, the carnage, the blood, getting back in the car. And this is how I got caught, right? So I've got back in the car, my heart's racing. Everyone's like, oh, fucking let's go. So I've spun out of, this is one of them residential streets. In fact, I'll tell you where it is in Forest Gates, on Hampton Road. And you'll know that's the ones with the big houses, the big posh old houses, with cars at that point were allowed to park either side. So if you're driving down that road and there's a car coming towards you, you have to slow down, look for a gap to pull in to let the. So I've spun out to drive off, not knowing that I've not turned my lights on. It's late at night, okay? And then I've seen a car at the end of the road, which was Wood Grange High Road, and I've just gone, fuck this, and I've just put it in reverse and just started speeding down that road up to where there's a roundabout to back and turn around. That car that turned into that road just happened to be an undercover police car from Forest Gate Station that was just doing some rounds. So of course they've seen this car with no lights pull out and then start driving erratically backwards, reversing down the road to a roundabout, and then they followed me. So the journey literally would have been 2 minutes down the end of the road, over the bridge, chuck a right onto Ridley Road. Bosh, I'm home. So I don't know that they're behind me at this point. And I just remember pulling up at my mum's house, like parking, and stepping out of the car, and I hadn't noticed that there's another car that's pulled up just behind in the middle of the road, just behind. And I've stepped out of the car, and like everyone else has jumped out, like mate Adam and the other fellas jumped out, and all I heard was that noise of like an asp, you know, like when the police flick it, freeze, police. And I just remember in that moment, my whole world came crashing fucking down, my whole world. And all I remember is as he put me over the bonnet and I've looked to my left, I saw my mate running down the road, being chased by two coppers. And I just remember seeing this silver flash in the lamppost of something spinning. And then you just heard the metal ping as it hit the floor. Like he threw the hammer up in the air, but it just went up, straight up in the air and landed straight back down on the floor. And then I just heard my mum and my brother, who was the younger brother that I thought was at the party. I put my, the bedroom window. I was up my old bedroom window looking down and the world hit me. Like, oh my God. And I remember going back to Forest Gate Station and basically that's when it hit home because we could hear ambulance needed. We could hear the chatter over all the police walkie-talkies, their radios of what was going on. And that's when the severity of what we'd done and what had happened really hit home because that guy nearly died. Thank God he didn't, because I would have been going down for murder, which even thinking about it, it wouldn't even have been the charge. It would have been thinking that you could have that on your conscience. That to this day, that makes me feel sick. So I'm so glad that you made a full recovery, sir, and that you're what a human being you are. So there's the backstory. Next is court. Snaresbrook Crown Court. So, like I said, from being in that fight, in the incident, we sodded off. We had that little meeting over Wanstead Flats where my mate proposed the idea, why don't we go to Ireland, where his mum and sister was. Took the opportunity. So that happened. We're back now. Loads happened in Ireland. Another day, another story. We're back now. Been caught, as in being caught and now going to court. And I know I'm going to prison. It's really surreal because this happened when I went up for like the sentencing, when we got when we got the verdict. So, and I got guilty. So I knew I was going to prison at that point. It wasn't a maybe. I'm definitely going to prison. And there's an irony to this going to prison, as in what my family, what my dad, what three of my uncles did for a living as well, and where they did it. There's a real classic irony coming here. Anyway, so I knew I was going to prison, and I was just about to turn 21, and I remember like the judge basically gave a bit of a leniency, sort of let me have my 21st birthday out and then go back to prison. Now, the fact that I'd been on the run and yet he's still, the judge still allowed me to go out and celebrate my birthday was amazing. So I got to celebrate. And of course, everyone from my area, everyone from my area came over and we had this amazing 21st birthday party. It was all surreal, to be honest. Just got totally off my tits. I was mashed up. I just wanted to get as fucked as I possibly could, just to enjoy it as much as I could because I knew what was coming. Then Snaresbrook Crown Court. Now, to put things in perspective, just to switch dynamics a little bit here, this is the 2002-2003 season. So talk about a cursed whole year for me, because as you know, that's the season we got relegated. And that's the season we got relegated when we had Di Canio, Defoe, Joe Cole. We had a good start to that season. We'd done Newcastle 3-0 at the beginning of the season. We had a decent cup run as well. We got to the quarterfinals. We'd done City and Blackburn on the way to that, but we got knocked out by Fulham. And obviously, it was Di Canio was just being Di Canio that year, and Jermaine Defoe. I think Di Canio's top scorer with 9. Defoe got 11 in all competitions, but we still got relegated. So that was all going on that year with West Ham as I'm getting banged up. So I'm standing there, back to my story, in Snaresbrook Crown Court. Now, I don't know if any of you have ever been to a Crown Court before, but they're predominantly really old-fashioned buildings. And I just remember standing there in the docks, knowing, right, I'm going to get sentenced. How long am I going to get sentenced? And of course, I didn't understand at that point the whole concurrent thing. I just remember the judge saying 5 years for this, 5 years for that, 3 years for this, which was the lower charge. And I'm thinking, 13 fucking years. And then I think my barrister's clocked and he's like, 5. And it's funny because in that moment of 13 and then someone going 5, I was like, oh, thank God, 5. Fucking hell. So got 5 years. And I just remember looking over at my mum and my brothers that all turned up there and, you know, giving them the brave, I'm all right, love you, I'm all right. And then the surreal experience of, and if anyone's been sentenced at Snaresbrook, and that as in being sentenced to prison, you'll know, unless they've changed it, which I doubt, what I'm about to say next. You go down the stairs and then all of a sudden you're in this really old, archaic tunnel system. And I just remember at the time, because everything's obviously going on, where, Jay, you've got 5 years. How long does that mean? You should get parole. You should get out in 2.5, around 2.5, 3 years, like that. You know, I was going through my head, I bet my mum's crying, all that. And as I'm walking, I just remember out of my peripheral, keep walking past like these other tunnels, like just really random tunnels that are going off. And the guard, look ahead, just keep moving. I just remember thinking, where does all these tunnels go to? Really random. And anyway, you walk down and you walk out, and you come up into a yard where the prison van, sorry. First of all, I missed a bit of the story out. Don't matter though, about the holding cell. But anyway, you come out and you come into the yard, and there's a prison van. And just before you go in the prison van, you get sort of put in, like, there's this little holding area. And it's funny because I didn't smoke at the time, right? But of course, we'd done our bit of research. We knew a bit about prison, which I'll bring that up in a minute once it gets to that point of the story. That's the irony. So, like I said, didn't smoke. We got some 200 pack of cigarettes, a bit of currency for inside. Fucking idiot. So I had my 200 fags. Didn't have access to them at that point. In the holding cell, though, there was a group of lads. They was all older, a lot older than me. Like, I was the young pup, and it was like, oh, how you doing, mate? First time, I was like, yeah. Fucking proper. Everything was hitting home at that point. I'll never forget, this is the first sort of stupid thing, a long line of stupid things I did in front of black prisoners that were used to being prisoners, and you could clearly see how green I was. The geezer was like, oh, do you want to burn, mate? And I'm like, yeah. I didn't know what a fucking burn was. It was a roll up. So he's giving me a Rizla, and he's giving me like a bit of burn, bit of tobacco. And there's me, green as you can be. Just like, he's talking away, he's not really taking any notes of me. I'm putting it in, the Rizla, rolling up. I'm thinking, why did they give me these other 2 or 3 Rizlas? So I've just sort of put them in my pocket. Yeah, know where this is going. So I've rolled up this little one skinner about that fucking fat, and I've got a light, I've lit up, and I've just gone, and the kid's turned around, he's gone, what the fuck you done there? I went, I rolled a burn. And he's gone, you silly cunt, is that 3 or 4? That's why I gave you 3 Rizlas. 3 or 4 worth cigarettes worth there. And I was like, oh, fucking first flop. Of course, they all pissed themselves laughing, which was quite funny because it sort of snapped me out of all the fear and all the sadness into, oh, what a cunt you've done there, you prick. But anyway, from there, you get taken into a prison van. And that's surreal, because to drive from Snaresbrook Crown Court to Pentonville, which is where my prison journey began, as in first prison, I did Pentonville, Wayland, Hollesley Bay, and High Point. They called it Knife Point, but it's High Point. So that was the 4 prisons I went to. It started off in Pentonville. So driving from Snaresbrook Crown Court, East London, through the streets that I was, you're looking at, I don't know if you've ever driven by or behind a prison van, you can see the windows and you think, oh, I wonder if they can see me. I wonder what they've done. I wonder what they're thinking. If they're anything like me, they're looking down going, I wish I was out there. I know that McDonald's. I know that pub. Fucking hell, Jay, what you done? You can't. Like, it is surreal because you're realizing you're not going to get to do all the things that you're just so used to doing and you take for granted your freedom on a daily basis. That's all stopped now for at least at that point. I'm thinking at least another 2.5, 3 years. Like if I get my jam, my parole, and that journey, yeah, just looking into cars, seeing kids, and you can see kids looking up, and their parents will be saying, "Yeah, don't look in there, full of bad people in there." And then you get to Pentonville. This is when everything hits home in regards to what prison is really all about. So you pull up and there's a multitude of prison vans, like, because obviously there's loads of people coming from all different parts of the country as well, not just from London. And I just remember pulling up, and then there must have been a screw from Pentonville Prison who's on the prison officer, call them screws, who's on the reception of where they take people in, they sign people in. And he's obviously come up to the bus. He must have had a chat with a guy, and we got held on the bus. Why we got held on the bus is because so when I went away, it was like at the height of the time when there was a massive beef between Peckham and Brixton, and you had different gangs who I got to know. You'll hear that in the stories. I got to know quite a few of them throughout my journey. But it was bad. Like, it was really bad. People was just getting chived up left, right, and center. And anyway, what's happened is when you get to Pentonville, again, I don't know if this has changed now. When we got there, you get off the bus, you got your bag. And that's the first time I felt vulnerable, because in my bag, you had this big 200 pack of cigarettes that everyone was just looking at. And I'm realizing, oh, we've made a fucking Rick here, mum. We thought we was getting currency. No. I've just put a big fucking target on my back. But anyway, you got your bag, which is see-through, it has to be. And you go into an area which at that point, there was only 2 screws that were in this holding area. And there's about 30, 40 prisoners that have either just been sentenced or just been transferred from another prison. So everyone's just been on the move. Everyone's frustrated. For those that have just been sentenced, there's a lot of anger. So anyway, so it kicked off before. So we was on the bus for ages. Then when we got off our bus, so they cleared out whatever else had happened. Then they put in this other new lot. And then what happened was, as we was walking in, one of the lads that was on my bus, when he walked in, there was a group of lads that obviously they were beefing, and it just went off again. And I mean, it just erupted. The first thing I noticed, because I've just looked up in fear and thinking, where's the screws? Somebody stop this. And the screws just walked into, so what you had was 2 screws in the holding area. Then you had 1 screw behind a gated desk, which was taking people. You got your prison number and all the rest of it, signing people in. And the 2 screws, they just went, but they just opened the door, they went behind the gate, and they just blowing the whistles. So to call over. And in the meantime, now it's just going off. Like, it's just going off, which is funny, because it's funny how the mind works. I went from fear, where's the screws, to no one's looking at me fags now. So I just sort of sorted back into, like done the Homer, like into the bush, faded into the background, and I just didn't even want to look. You can't help it, can you? You're just looking and you're thinking, fuck, this is, and that's when it really, things started hitting home. And I remember in my mind saying, Jay, you've just got to be yourself. I literally remember that feeling, because it was complete fear, complete panic to all of a sudden. So it was all my ego just flashing off of all the things that's going to happen to me, like witnessing what I am. So there's this moment of clarity where it was, be your fucking self. Like, don't try and be tough. Don't try and be hard. Just be yourself. And I just remember sitting there, sort of calming down. It's still going off. Then all of a sudden, the gates being bust open, and then loads of screws coming in. and it all being calmed down. And then basically I went up after that. So because it took from getting to Pentonville, being held on the bus for so long due to the fact that it had already kicked off once, to then it being another kickoff, and then everything being held up. I didn't actually get taken to my cell, which was on a different wing. So I got told, this isn't the wing you're going to be on, but because of the time of evening, we can only put you there. I'll tell you now something else funny, right? So when I got my number, it's funny how you remember it straight away. JM6012, JM6012. That was my number. What a dick. Oh, look, isn't that a coincidence? When I've gone away, JM is the first two letters. No, you dick. It's your initials. What a cock. But anyway, so again, at one point, that was another funny story when that came up in front of prisoners that were there in a big group. And I'm going, yeah. And mine was like James 6012. Imagine that is my initials for. And everyone just sort of went quiet and then just all fucking burst out laughing. You can't. It is your initials. You fucking can't. Oh, Jay, you done it again. But anyway, so I got my prison number. You put your kit over, you put your prison shirt on, which at that point as well, this is another thing. In prison, believe it or not, there's a societal class to the fashion of your prison clothes. And for those that have been away, you'll know, you're probably laughing. You know what I mean? Because to start with, I looked like literally, because I was fucking a beanpole anyway. I'd never done any, I was fit because I'd played a lot of football, but I wasn't into the gym. So I was a skinny beanpole with a big head, wearing some fat cunt ex-prisoner fucking t-shirt that like the neck's down here over one shoulder. I'm pulling it up thinking, fucking everything, I'm gay. Like I'm showing my shoulder off, like stains on it, baggy, horrible red trousers, tracksuit ones. It's like you start off with the worst of the worst kit, prison kit. And it's funny how you work your way up with that. Again, I'll share that because it's mad how prison works, what you get caught up in to keep yourself busy. But I remember walking down B wing, and I was going to be put on D wing. I remember walking down B wing. It was late at night. People doing the usual, banging on their doors. Oh, new fish and all the rest of it. And I'm thinking, oh. There was like it wasn't just me. And I remember getting taken up to this top furthest cell away on this wing from the reception area. Him opening the door, geezer in there. I met him for that night, stayed in his cell for that night. Rob from Basildon, I'll never forget you. Got in that cell, I just remember the smell in the cell straight away. Oh, like it was rancid, like it smelled like a fucking toilet. And I just remember getting in and he was on the bottom bunk. You all right, mate? Yeah, you're right. And we had a brief chat. And then I got up on the top bunk and I need to go to the toilet. He said, oh, mate, the toilet don't work. I'm thinking, oh, no, is this what it's going to be like? And anyway, I remember that night, it was my first night, I slept that night, and then the following day, I got moved over to D Wing, which I don't know if it is still, but D Wing was at that point the biggest wing in Europe. It housed murderers, rapists, everything and anything was on this D Wing. And not only that, it was the wing that my dad and 3 of my uncles had worked as screws in that prison. And my God, we'll leave it there and I'll continue this on the next one. So where I left off was my first night in Pentonville prison. It all kicked off around reception when I was signing in, when I got my prison number, when I got my old stinking, dirty, way too big prison kit. And I got walked up B landing. I was going on to D. I was told this wasn't where I was going to be. I was going to be going on to D wing, which it was, I don't know if it still is, the biggest wing in Europe. I think it was, is it 5 or 6 floors high? And it housed everything from rapists, paedophiles, murderers, lifers. It was everything. It was, D wing was, wow, it was a mess. And what was ironic about D wing, as I shared in my last video, right at the end, was my dad and 3 of my uncles, so 4 of my family members, all had served as screws, prison officers in Pentonville and on D wing. So this was a quite precarious situation for me, which I knew that I wasn't going to be shouting that information about. So that night, my first night, I was put in a cell with a guy called Rob from Basildon. What an experience. Toilet didn't work. Anyway, I fell asleep that night. I remember thinking, I'm never going to sleep, and then falling asleep. And it was noisy. You do hear people shouting at the window, people banging their window. And then the noise of what sounded like things hitting windows, which I'll explain once. I just remember thinking, what the fuck's that noise? Things kept hitting windows. Anyway, I woke up. I remember waking up in the morning and I'd forgotten. I'll never forget that moment. I just woke up and I thought it was just another normal morning. And then I'm in prison. Like it hit me. I was like, fuck, yeah, I'm really here. And then it's just a lot of noise starts kicking off. There's the first set of workers that go work in the servery, which is where they serve food, the cleaners that go on the landing. You hear doors being like the noise of keys, and D-Wing's a big old wing, so everything echoes. You heard the noise of keys opening, then doors being swung open and people coming out, and straight away people shouting, banging on the doors. And it just really hit home. This is me, I'm here. And again, the fear crept back in. Fuck, what's going to happen? So I remember the officer, once they opened that door, he said to me, Mannion, you'll be going over to D-Wing, get your stuff. I hadn't unpacked my stuff anyway. So at this point, I've worked out, I've hidden the cigarettes deep inside my stuff, so no one knew I had cigarettes. And at that point, I was thinking, I ain't even got a chance to try and get any currency with these things, because it's all about currency for phone cards and all the rest of it, blah, 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 blah. But at this point, like I said, this is my first full day in prison. I wake up, they take me over. So you walk down B-Wing, and then there's these set of massive gates, iron gates that swing, slide over. And in between B-Wing and D-Wing, there's like this island bit in the middle where all the screws are. It's like the main office where they've got all the cameras and everything else. And I remember I was standing in there for a minute. There was some talking going on, and I was looking down into D-Wing, and it just looked like fucking chaos. There was people clearly, totally mentally ill. Like totally, completely gone. And the first thing in the morning is when they serve the medication. And it's interesting in prison because medication is currency as well. And you see people like they have to do that. They do a shot of their meds. They open their mouth to show the screws that they swallowed. Then they cough it back up again and put it in their pockets, and they sell it on to the smackheads and the crackheads and the people that are addicted to pills. So, see that was going on. The people are coming out waiting for breakfast, and people are shouting and swearing at each other. Like, to quickly sort of summarize what prison is like, it's like an all boys school where everyone's a naughty boy and most people are really fucking loud and boisterous, and the amount of ego in prison, as you can imagine, is massive. And I've said this before. So for those that have gone through my coaching course, you'll know about pillar 3, the now, being present. Going to prison, and in that first day, standing in that island, looking down into D-Wing, seeing the chaos, I've never been so present in my life. I knew everything that was going on around me because it was from fear. And fear is a great way to snap you in to be in prison. And anyway, so the screws come back out. They've worked out what cell I'm going to. So they open the gates. Like, everyone looks at you. It is fucking intimidating because like there's a lot of lumps in prison. Like, it seems as if everyone was fucking huge. And they walked me through, so I had to go like halfway through D-Wing to a set of stairs to go up onto the first landing. And they took me to my cell, and there was a guy called Barry, an English Rastafarian fella called Barry. What a lovely geezer. He was my new cellmate, and I could tell straight away he was a nice guy. Like, he was very placid, very calm. So, you right, mate? So you've got the top. Like, obviously you got the top. All newbies get the top bunk, unless you're coming in a fucking hard night. He said, no, mate, you're on top. I was like, I'll take the top. That's absolutely fine, pal. So I unpacked my stuff. Barry's talking to me. Oh, what did you do? What are you in for? Which at that point, as nice as Barry was, I didn't realise that's you're being vetted from the off. because when you go to prison, you get something called your debs. What your debs are, and those that have been in prison, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Your debs is your paperwork that goes with you, that you have access to all the time. And your debs show what you've done. However, because, and this is where unfortunately things get vile, and I'll talk about this more as my prison story goes on, especially when I move prisons. There are so many paedophiles and sex offenders in prisons that they cannot actually, they've normally got their own wings, they've normally got their own sex offenders wing, right? But because they're so packed and overcrowded, they have to put these nonces and rapists in with normal prison population. And what they do is they give the prisoner a fake set of debs, paperwork with a different charge on, so that they can hold them and hope that no one finds out that they're really a rapist or a nonce, basically. So anyway, Barry's doing his thing, vetting me, and then he says, right, come, let's go get breakfast. So I was like, right, good. I've got someone to stand with, I've got someone to talk to. So we make our way out of our cell, and we're walking along the landing. He's saying hello to a few people, and I just heard, you're Barry. And I looked over, because obviously Barry looked over as well. And oh yeah. He nodded, the guy, and this guy, he looked like fucking Debo, right? This geezer, look, for those that have seen the Friday film, do you remember Debo with the boss eye, the big fella, like that bullied the whole neighborhood? Well, this guy had a fucking boss eye, these little funky fucking, I used to call that like shitlocks, not dreadlock, them little twisted ones that look like little curly turds coming out all over his head, done really badly. I absolutely boss. Naturally massive, but with a belly as well. Anyway, turns out, because Barry went to me, be careful with him. I was like, in my head, I'm thinking, I don't want anything to fucking do with this geezer. He went, do you know who that is? I said, nah. He went, that's Scott Lewis. I said, all right. He said, yeah. You know Lennox Lewis? He said, that's his brother that he holds no claim to. And then I looked at him and I was like, oh my God, this guy is the spitting image of Lennox Lewis. He just looks like, this sounds fucking awful, a slightly special needed, simple version, but fucking chaotic with it. So anyway, I was like, mental note, fucking stay away from Scott Lewis, Lennox Lewis's brother. So that was that first weird moment in prison of, this is fucking surreal. So we go downstairs to the servery, and like I said, this is where I'm really clocking the people taking the medication and walking away and clearly coughing it up and putting it in their pockets. And I said to Barry, what's that? It was like, Barry was amazing. He literally was like a guide along the way. And he was really, he took me under his wing. So in that first day, like in that first morning, because in prison, it's like everything's a new experience. And for me, it was based on fear. So I was like literally receptive to fucking everything that's going on around me. And get to the servery and I see just people pushing in. Like, this is the first time I'm witnessing, okay, there's just blatant bullying in here. I see people just literally walking to the front of the line, pushing in. Certain people might have said something back, but then they are clearly told in no uncertain terms, like, shut up. And then these people they just pushed in. So I fell in line with Barry and we're queuing up and we walk in, and then that's the first time I saw prison food. Fucking hell. Like, it was rank, absolutely rank. When I went up to the servery, there was this little black fella. He was could only been just over 5 foot. And he was number one in the servery. And he was so basically he was in charge of the servery. And his name was Frankie. And anyway, he must have clocked. I was with Barry. He said hello to Barry and everything else. He's like, who's that? He went, oh, this is Mano. That's when I got my name, Mano. Everyone started calling me Mano. My surname's Mannion. This is Mano. He's just... in prison, by the way, everyone gets called by their surnames. The screws call you by their surnames, and everyone else calls you by your surname, or you got nicknames, killer, shit like that. I want one of those. And anyway, so Frankie obviously clocked that I'm new. He's like, you all right, mate? And he went here, and he went from behind the servery, and he gave me, it was just a couple of bits of toast, but all the other toasts on top were like soggy, wet dirt, and these toasts were a couple of bits of nice toast. And I was like, oh, that was the first moment of kindness. Like, and I know it probably sounds really cheesy, but fucking meant the world. It was like, oh, that was nice. Like, there's nice people here. And and he said, you play table tennis? And I was like, yeah, I play a bit. He said, yeah, I'm king of the wing on table tennis, which I learned out he was. This geezer, he's like pro fucking. And I ended up meeting up with Frankie in a next prison, funnily enough, as well. Lovely guy. So anyway, we get our food. We go back to our canteen, go back to our cells. And then there's like a shout on the landing, and then like from a screw, and then you just hear everyone going mental, like wah, blah, 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 blah. Fucking noises that are going up and down the wing. I was like, Barry, what's that? He went, that's canteen. And he went, right. At that point, he was banned from his canteen. So he said, I'm not going. He said, because I'm banned, I ain't got no canteen, because he'd failed a piss test because he smoked weed. And yeah, that's a funny story about weed in prison in comparison to, you're better off, it sounds awful to say, but you're better off in prison in regards to your diet being a smackhead or a crackhead than you are just having a spliff. And the reason being, in prison you get something called a VDT, which is voluntary drugs test. It's not voluntary, because if you say no to it, you get an MDT, which is a mandatory drugs test. So the thing is with cannabis, because your body the stuff in cannabis is actually really good for you. It's not a maybe, it is. There's cannabinoids within cannabis that are really good for your system. So your system holds on to it. Whereas smack and crack, your system realizes, or cocaine or ecstasy or speed, any of them drugs, because your system realizes it's foreign, it will come out through your sweat, it'll come out through your tears, it'll come out through your skin, it'll come out through your piss, it'll come out through your shit. Within 24 hours, it comes out of your system. So all the smackheads and crackheads, they always pass their piss test because they, sod's law, it's very rare that they get one the night after. Sometimes they do and they fail them, but even sometimes they do and they pass them. But my point is, people who have a spliff, for the next 3 to 4 weeks, even a little spliff, it stays in your system and it comes out in your piss. So you end up losing your canteen, which is something that happened to me along the way. But there's funny stories of that to come. Anyway, so he goes, it's canteen time, and he goes, just be careful. I was like, why? He went, look, just be careful, Dan. I was like, oh, fucking hell. So I'm walking down the canteen, and straight away there's this massive line that's going from near enough. The canteen place was near where the medication was, which was near the island in the middle of the wing. So it was at the end of the wing, and the queue was pretty much going back up to the other end of the wing because everyone was queuing up, obviously, for canteen. So as I'm queuing up, I'm getting closer, I'm not talking to anyone, no one's talking to me. And then as I'm sort of within sight of so how the canteen worked is, you went in one door and you went around and you come out the other door. So it's like you go on a horseshoe and you come out. So you're just filing through. And I could see, as people were coming out the door, there was a gang of lads that were literally just robbing people of their canteen as they was coming out. And I'm like, oh, that's going to be me. I'm going to get robbed from me fucking canteen, my Mars bars or me super noodles or whatever. And I'm watching it happen, and then I'm thinking, where's the screws? Like, why has no one fucking, because it was blatant. People were getting robbed. It wasn't as if they was like quietly just looking at people like, come here, like, and just fucking taking shit out of people's bags. I was thinking, oh, this is a fucking nightmare. But anyway, so I'm carrying on. I'm fucking scared. I'm shitting it. Anyway, so I get into the canteen hall. I think, right, buy a few bits. Don't buy nothing extravagant. Like, see if you can get through this, like, you're just going to plow on through. You got to do it. So I'd accepted my fate as whatever was going to be was going to be. So I picked up a few bits, and like, as I said, like I'm coming through, like, and it's really a really slow process because you're talking hundreds of inmates are going through canteen at the same time. So it's a really slow process. So I'm getting closer to where you sign your name off and they take the balance of the amount of stuff you've purchased. They knock that balance off the amount of money that, your mum, in my case, has credited your account with. And I'm getting to that stage, and I'm starting to feel sick, and I'm getting to the point where I'm coming around the horseshoe where I'm facing the door where people are going out and people are still getting robbed. And like, I'm thinking, right, what's going to happen? Is this going to be that first altercation? What am I going to do? Am I just going to roll over? Am I just going to just give my stuff? I'll be honest, that's the stuff that was going on in my head. And then as I'm thinking that, I heard someone go, "Oi, is that Mannion?" And I've just gone, like, who the fuck's that? And I've looked over, like, and one of the guys that's standing there robbing other people, I'll just call him Dan, was a guy I went to school with. He went, "Mannion, what are you doing here?" And he just barged through people. He's like, "Come here, bruv, come here, bruv, come here." Put his arm around me. He said, "Yeah, come through, come through, come through." And the relief, the fucking relief, like, I'm sure my arsehole was going in celebration as he walked me through. Like, I'd had my stuff marked off. He walked me through, put his arm around me, and we walked through. And as we walked past all that group that was robbing people, he was like, "Hey, this is Mannion." And I was just like spudding everyone. Safe, 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 safe. And that was my first canteen experience, because it could have gone the other way. But from that moment on, my experience in Pentonville, it took a change. And I genuinely believe, I don't care what anyone says or how this sounds, my nanny Mannion was my angel, because some of the things that happened, like that thing in prison for me, was just phenomenal. So that moment, that changed my whole experience in Pentonville on D-Wing. Thank you for listening if you got this far. Where I go next with this is back to Scott Lewis, Lennox Lewis's brother, and the gym induction, which I mentioned on one of the first videos. One of the first absolute cunt moments I had was when I rolled up about 3 or 4 burn in one Rizzler and fucking took one pull, nearly chucked me ring up. Well, this was the next one, was the gym induction in front of about 40 or 50 fucking massive lump prisoners. What happened to me? So embarrassing. So, quick disclaimer, as it says at the start of the video, I'm not here to glorify my prison stories, just to tell you them and how it helped shape me, even becoming the coach that I am today. When I look back in hindsight, there was a lot of life lessons learned in prison. So where I left off last time was my first canteen experience, where I thought I was going to get robbed, but then it turned out the gang of robbers, one of them was someone I went to school with, and he took me under his wing. So yeah, Dan, that day, he took me under his wing. He asked me what I was in for. I told him. He actually knew my 2 co-defendants, my codees, as they're called, as well, because he went, like I said, he went to the same school that I'd gone to. So we got chatting and everything else, and he was like, "Bruv, you're nice here. You need anything?" Like, he gave me a bit of ash and everything else. Said, "You need anything, just come and see me." And that was like, honestly, that fucking made me feel right at home. Anyway, so I go back to my cell. I say to Barry, like, I'm buzzing. I'm like, "Barry, I got through canteen. Look, Barry, I'm all right. I lived." He just started laughing. I was like, "Yeah, I know such and such." He said, "You know them?" I said, "Yeah, I went to school with him." He was like, "Oh, you're all right then." So anyway, I don't know. So you get banged up then. So at this point on D-Wing, it was 23-hour bang up, because it kicked off so much. And I'll go on to so my first night in D-Wing is coming up after my gym induction. I'll talk about that. But anyway, so because it's always kicking off in D-Wing, everyone's always locked up, so you don't get your time out and your social, don't get time to go out on the yard. So anyway, it was Barry said, "Oh yeah, we're banged up now, but you've got a gym induction, so you'll get out for that." I was like, "Oh, brilliant." So anyway, the cell gets unlocked. "Mannion, do you want your gym induction?" I'm like, "Yes, gov," all over that. So he took me out, and I can see there's a massive crowd of people that are being walked down to the gym area, which is right at the end of the wing. And then you're all filing in. There must have been easy 40 or 50 people, right? So we get into there's a couple of screws that are lumps, and there's a couple of cons which were also lumps, which were the gym orderlies. So they worked in the gym. They sort of managed the gym, and they show you how to do stuff. So this was the fucking story. This is the induction, right? And it's actually it's funny things that happen that inspire you, though, to go on to master something from a place of embarrassment. So anyway, the geezer, the con is going, "Right, this is the bench press machine. You come over here to one of one of us newbies, lays him down on a bench, right? Put your hands here, blah, 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 shows him a bench. Goes to another machine, right? This is the pull down machine. You come over here, blah, blah, blah. So I've gone about 4 or 5 different exercises. I'm getting quite excited. Oh, this is really good. Like, I can't wait to have a go on one of these. Not in that moment. I just meant like, I can't wait to have a go on in the session, you know, start using the gym. And anyway, he gets to the dip and pull up bar. So he gets someone to come up to do a dip. And if you know what a dip is, it's when you've got basically 2 handles and you dip your body weight. It's like a downward press up. It does your triceps and does like the under part of your chest. So he got someone to do that. And then he went, right, pull up. You pointed at me. And I had one of the moments like, me. He went, yeah, come here. So he went, right, get up. He said, put one hand up there, put one hand up here. So I've got up in this position. And to be honest, I need to get this right. I'm going to tip my camera up a little bit, right? So he's gone, right. So I'm in this position. So he's gone, let yourself drop. So I've dropped down here. He's gone, pull yourself up. So I've gone, and of course, everyone has started pissing themselves laughing, and then my ego's going, don't give up, Jay. And I'm making noises and my big fucking skinny body and big head's going red, and I'm like, and he's just gone, get down, mate. He literally just pushed me down on my shoulder. I've just dropped down like that. And every single person in there, the screws, everyone was fucking wetting themselves laughing, like pissing themselves laughing. I felt this fucking small. As he went, go on, mate. He said, you're going to have to practice them. So I had this walk of shame in, like, back into like where everyone was standing. As I'm walking by, everyone's going, rustling me head, patting me on the back, where down you cunt, and look like, and I'm just thinking, that couldn't have gone any fucking worse. But do you know what he did do? Prior to that moment, everyone in that room was still putting on their fucking hard, man. I'm hard. I'm here in the gym. I'm hard. I'm fucking hard, flexing. In that moment, thanks to some silly bollocks, being me, being a complete pussy on a pull-up, it broke the whole atmosphere of it. Like, it did. It genuinely changed everything. So I remember thinking afterwards, like, well, people are laughing at me, but these people are laughing. Like, it's a different energy all of a sudden. And we went round, and I swear to God, I made a pact with myself, like, I am going to fucking get so good at fucking pull-ups that is never going to happen to me again. And I did. In fact, that was one of the things that inspired me to become a personal trainer, was I fell in love with pull-ups. Like, I would literally do them. So on D-Wing in Pentonville, there's these metal staircases, and at the back of the metal staircases, there's like a gap that you can jump up, and you put a towel on, so that if you try to do it with your hands, it will just, because it's only like a thin bit of like metal. If you try to do it with just your hands and your fingers, it will cut them. You just couldn't hold your body weight. But if you put a towel over, like, you got half a decent grip. And there was like a group of lads. I've fast forwarded a bit here, but anyway, so that I went on to basically join in this group of lads that pretty much every day when they was allowed out on the landing, because sometimes you weren't allowed outside, but you was allowed on the landing, it might be pissing down with rain or whatever. And I said, can I just jump in? And I'd practice every fucking day doing pull-ups, and I became fucking really good, funnily enough. But it got to the point where I could hold 2 20 plates of 40 kilograms in between my legs with a belt, and I could quite comfortably, this was at my peak, I could quite comfortably do 10 pull-ups. Like, I got really good at them, and it was all inspired by that fucking moment of like when you just want the world to swallow you up. But like I said, it created a good laugh in there, it changed the energy of that experience. And yeah, from that sort of people recognize, oh yeah, I remember you from the gym, which wasn't the best fucking bit of recognition you can say to start with, but at least it was harmless, you know. It could have been a lot worse. So that was my gym induction, and after that I remember going back to the cell feeling really deflated, and Barry was like, what's the matter? And I told Barry what happened, and he just fucking pissed himself laughing as well. So yeah, that sort of wraps up my gym induction story. Then that night, so back in my cell that day, we're banged up for the rest of the day. I've got a radio, because in Pentonville, you haven't got any well, you might change now, but then D-Wing didn't have any plug sockets. So you was allowed to have a radio with batteries. And my mum, shout out to my lovely mum, she'd bought me a wind-up radio. We thought we was really clever. It was this wind-up radio that if you fucking wound it up, it would stay on for an amount of time. But it turns out, because of some of the parts in it, can be used apparently to make, it was like a gun or something, like the spring in there could be used. I weren't allowed to have it. So like Barry would have his radio until I got my own, and we'd be listening to music. And I was having a good chat with Barry that first day. And then that evening, falling asleep, I was actually feeling pretty good, because obviously I've got a nice cellmate. Like I've got through my first proper day on D-Wing. I've been inducted to the gym, albeit a bit of a funny moment, but you know, it's weird. It's just like you're starting to, even in that short period of time, just acclimatise a little bit to your new surroundings and make good of the best you've got. That was until about 3 o'clock in the morning. So I just remember hearing this blood curdling screaming. Like I've woke up, Barry's woke up, we jumped out. Now in Pentonville, the way it is, you've got these little slit glass windows, which are like really thick, good couple of inches thick of glass, and you've got not a door, like a flap, metal flap that goes over the front of it, but there's always like a little gap and you can sort of see out. And Barry's gone, oh my fucking God, oh my God, like they're on fire. And he's gone, look, and I've looked through the gap and across the landing, so on the same level as us, but on the others, because the way D-Wing is, you've got cells on both sides, you've got like 6 floors, cells on both sides, and you've got the gap in the middle where they put down like the netting so that to stop people jumping off and stuff like that. There's, you know, committing suicide, there's that sort of netting in the middle, so there's a gap in the middle, and then you've got the cells on the other side. And I could see that there was someone, you could just see the silhouette of their face screaming, help, help, help. And you could see the orange flickering of fire. This guy was banged up with someone with mental health issues who had managed during the night to set fire to the cell. What it used, I don't know, but the blankets, everything like, and it got so fucking hot in there that bit of glass that I said had cracked. We found this out the next day, because obviously, I mean, it was chaos. It was fucking chaos. Like the cell, like the alarms went off, the whistles were going off, the screws were running down, and you could just hear this young guy just screaming like, help, get me out, he's gone fucking mental. Like, it was just absolutely fucking horrific. And then the ambulances turned up and everything else, and they took out the 2 guys. One of them, the young guy that was by, you know, the cell door, the guy with the mental health issues, I mean, he didn't die, but he was like burnt to a crisp. He just stayed back in the flame sort of thing. And then the guy that was by the door, he got done, like tested for, because he went on to the next prison that I went on to as well, which was Wayland. And I got to speak to him later about what had happened. And one of the things I can tell you in regards to mental health is there are so many people in prison that should not be in prison. It's the worst place for them. They should be in mental health institutes. Like, it is fucking awful, because they're not only a danger to themselves, they're a danger to the people that they're with. And yeah, so anyway, that really hit home that night. And I'll be honest, when I went back to bed, when it had all died down, I remember going back to bed And I cried. Like I made sure no one knew, like Barry didn't know I was crying, but I cried because I cried for the sadness of the whole fucking thing. Like to be in that state. The thing is, I'd been actually at that stage, I'd actually started studying mental health quite a bit earlier when my brother got sick with mental health, which is part, for those who know my story, that's part of my story. So I was sad for the guy with mental health. I was sad for my brother, who was the last, when I went on the run, I told you in the first video, the only person in my family that knew I was going on the run was my brother Paul. I've got three brothers, Warren, who's older than me, Dan, who's the youngest, saved the marriage baby, and me and Paul were only 2 years apart. And I remember Paul was the one who let me out quietly and shut the door when I went on the run, and we both looked at each other and cried our eyes out that day. And I just remember in that moment, on that bed in Pentonville, thinking, I fucking let Paul down as well. Like, you know, I'm not there for him. I wonder how he is. It was a really sad, one of them sad hit home moments. And that was my first day and night on D-Wing in Pentonville. So where we left off, it was actually quite a sad moment where we left off. It was when the fellow across the landing cell, not directly opposite, slightly a couple to the right hand side, because as I said, the way the flaps work on the prison doors, there's like a little gap that you can sort of see diagonal and only in one direction. So it was almost perfectly the cell opposite through our gap. A fellow with mental health issues tried to set fire to his cell with him and another young fellow in there. Horrific. So anyway, don't know if it was the next day or what. I know that next day we was all on bang up, and we was already on bang up, because what I learned quite quickly in Pentonville is that pretty much any time people were let out, especially like, so D-Wing, remember, is at that point, as I said, it might still be to this day, but at that point, biggest wing in Europe, it housed rapists, paedophiles, murderers, like it had everything, and first timers like me. The reason I was put on D-Wing is because of my charge. So because my charge, as I said, Section 18, the way it sort of goes, well, it may have changed now. So this was in 2001 when I got sentenced. 2002 I went away. It was murder, attempted murder, murder, manslaughter, and Section 18. So it was a high charge of violence. So because of that, I had to go to an A category prison initially. So the wing I was on, I was with a lot of A cat prisoners, which are rapists, murderers, all of the above. So my point is, you get a lot of people in there that with a lot of pent up aggression. So pretty much any time that people were let out onto the yard, there'd be some sort of fight or some sort of ruckus. And then the way that the prison tried to stop it is they'd say, right, that's it. No, everyone's on 23-hour bang up for the next 2 days, next 3 days, whatever. So when I first got into Pentonville, so this is now, you're talking, this is like my 4th day, it's still been 23-hour bang up. So I've not seen the yard. And even that is a daunting thought. In a way, at that point, I'm getting comfortable. I'm in my cell now. I've got used to my cellmate, Barry. Made a cunt of myself in the gym, but still had a bit of a laugh. And, you know, so I was acclimatizing to what I'd experienced. The yard, I'd not experienced yet. So that was the next sort of step. So anyway, the next day after the fire, we was on bang up for at least another 2 or 3 days. I remember in Pentonville, it was like, I'm sure it was like a whole week before we got outside. And it is quite a surreal experience, because where my cell was, I could look out our window, like backed onto where there was like a railway at the back. So then you can like see life, you can hear people, you know, outside, just getting on with their daily lives. And that was quite a surreal feeling. In them first few days, that realization, like I'm banged up all the time. I'm on my own with Barry. I can hear life going on outside, and it is quite a caged in feeling. But anyway, the day of the yard came. So I was a bit nervous, like with everything else for the first time in prison. There's loads of first moments where I was like, oh, what happens now? And I just remember it's really funny just recounting. I literally remember when they opened the cells, and then there was a few people like, whoa, going outside, like, you know, you get all sorts of people in prison, you know, it's not all, what's the right word? It's not all that nasty, bad men that just want to be, you know, fucking acting hard all the time. You get like jokers. In fact, some of the funniest banter I've experienced were 2 times. Was when I was on the run, which like I said, this hasn't been in this story. When I went on the run to Ireland initially, I worked on an Irish building site in a really proper fucked up area called Knockinaheeny. The banter on that site was that thickened my skin, and then prison was the next place that I really experienced that. It's brutal. So you get a lot of funny fuckers in prison. So you get people, oh, we're going outside. So, you know, I'm walking out with Barry, and I'd made a decision. So at that point, I've not really exercised, like, because after the fire thing, like there was no gym or anything. Like I said, we was banged up. At that point, no one had taught me that, like, the cell routines, which I learned, like the prison cell routines, how you can move stuff around and do different exercises in your cell. Like Barry didn't exercise. Barry the Rasta, he just smoked fucking ash. And you know what's funny about Barry? So you've all heard of prison hooch, yeah? How they make alcohol in prison. This geezer, with his sock, yeah, with some apples and some sugar, like he started trying to make prison hooch in our cell with his sock hanging outside our cell window. What a fucking experience that was. Like, I tried it as well. And that one weren't any good. I did have some prison hooch which fucked your life up, like, really badly. But that one, bless Bow, like, that was awful. But anyway, we're going out to the yard. So I'm going out with Barry, and I said, mate, I'm going to go for a run. And I think maybe there was a couple of reasons. Maybe I thought a moving target is harder to hit. But also, like, I'd been, up until that point, I was still playing regular football. Like, and I was always fit. I wasn't big in any way, muscular, but I could fucking run. Like, I had an engine. I could fucking run for fun. Like, so it was really funny. We got out onto the yard, and like I felt a bit of a knob at first, and I just started jogging around, and all the whole time I'm just conscious, and no one else was jogging. No one else was jogging at that stage, at that point. So like, I'm a bit conscious, thinking, Jay, just keep your head down, don't look around you. Then I saw Dan, who I told you in the last video, well, or the one before, when everyone was robbing people at the canteen. The guy that was sort of in with the robbers was a guy I went to school. I saw Dan, and I sort of nodded, and Dan knew me from school, and he knew like I played a lot of football, and I can't remember what he said, but he said something like in reference to, oh yeah, it's you running like in school, whatever he said. It made me feel more comfortable. So I started opening my legs a bit, getting into a jog. And then, as you do, and I'm sure you've all done this, when you exercise, you know, there's always things going on in your mind whilst you're warming up, you know, like you get into the gym, and it takes you normally about 10 to 15 minutes to get into that proper workout, whether you're running, lifting weights, playing, whatever it is. So it's the same. So my mind's occupied, but then because I've persisted, and you get an hour basically for like on the yard. So then now I'm running, and then for a brief moment, like I just forgot I was in prison. Like, well, not that I forgot I was in prison. I forgot about the fear. I forgot about what people thought. I was just running, like, and like I said, at that stage, I was quite fit. So I'm like doing some laps, and now I am seeing a few people look at that. Obviously, some people saying, "Look at this cunt," but you know. But either way, I didn't care. Like, I was just running, and it was a little bit of a sense of freedom. It just felt fucking good to run. Like, it was almost like, oh yeah, I can still do this. I might be banged up in here, but this is something I loved when I was out there, and I can still do this. And then a couple of people started jogging as well. Like, I thought, there's me running around at this stage, feeling good. I got them running around, and anyway, I just did that whole exercise. I just did non-stop. Then after that, every time they'd like give you, social today, you go out on the yard. As soon as I was out there, straight away, I didn't give a fuck anymore. I was just literally seeing how many times I could get round there in and out. Like, and again, because remember I said prison's a little bit like a all boys school where everyone's naughty. Now, something else that is similar in prison to school, when you're in school, you know, people that are good at football or good at sports, they can be a bit popular. Just the way, in the schools I went to, that was how it was anyway. If you was good at sports, if you played, you was good at football, if you was good at running, like you just was a little bit popular. That's just how it worked. And I got sort of a little name, everyone used to call me Runner. Original, creative. Because as soon as I'd get let out on the yard, and then, you know, a few people started running with me, which was quite nice. So this was all happening in the space of literally, this is the first 7 to 10 days. And I'm going to go back a step in a minute, but I just want to say that first day out in the yard, that sort of Forrest Gump experience, that just progressed into every time I opened that gate. I just remember, you know, before the first time I was timidly walking down the landing, like, you know, watching wherever I was going, who I was looking at, trying to get out to the yard. After that first time and that feeling of running, as soon as they popped the door, I was straight down. Excuse mate, sorry mate, just getting past people. Yeah, sorry mate, straight out on the yard, bosh, round I was going. So again, it was just one of them little things that, although I was inside, it was that little sense of freedom, and it felt fucking good because obviously when you run, endorphins like anything else. So anyway, yeah, that was just, it was a nice experience in a weird place, a nice experience. But like I said, I went on sort of 10, this will happen in the first 10 days, but let me come back, right? So maybe the day after or 2 days after that first yard experience, I remember coming back, Barry used to go out to do like the work he used to do. I think he worked with the prison kit because I was like, can you get me any better prison stuff? Because remember I told you, I'm new in prison. I've got on t-shirts like that, the necks are down here, still got stains on, like I've got no rank in prison at the minute, like I'm bottom of the barrel, and Barry worked in the kit room. So Barry managed to get me some new stuff. I remember something like when he came back, he went, yeah, that's large boys, like took the piss because I was a beanpole. But anyway, so Barry used to go out to work. I used to be in, because at that point I was told by the prison officers, you ain't going to be here long. You're only here because of the severity of your crime. But if you keep your nose clean, you'll get to a C-cat straight away. So that was good news. I was like, oh, what's a C-cat? And they explained. I was like, oh, that sounds nice. So anyway, Barry comes back from work and he's like, oh, mano, I'm leaving. And honestly, in that moment, like my world sank, because up until that moment, like Barry had been my linchpin. Like he showed me the ropes. He was the guy. And the thing is, Barry was like, do you remember I said about Lennox Lewis's brother, Scott Lewis, with the eye? Fucking hell, didn't know where to look. He was off his nut, that geezer. But even with him, with Barry, like Barry could talk to him. When Barry was only a skinny fellow himself, really calm, like big dreadlocks, just a really calm, soft voice. But he'd say, like, Scott, stop. Like he's the only one that seemed to, like a lot of people listened. Everyone had time for Barry, basically. And I just got banged up with him. So again, call it coincidence or call it my nanny manion looking down and taking care of me. When Barry was getting taken away, fucking, I was like, what? Where are you going? He was like, this is how it works. He said, listen, don't worry. You're going to be all right. He said, but I think Scott wants this cell. So I'm like, fucking Debo Lewis, he wants his cell. And I'm thinking, oh no, he was saying that don't worry about it. He probably won't get it, but he's probably going to come by here because he knows that I'm leaving the cell. So I'm thinking, oh, this is fucking bollocks. This is bollocks. Like he's going to see me in here. What's he going to think? Is he going to look at me? Am I going to be one of them prison stories? Is he going to try and bum me? Oh no, this is too much. The way the mind works, right? So anyway, like I was ruined. I was literally shitting myself, and Barry packed up his stuff and they took him off the wing. And no, that's not what happened. That's not what happened. Barry was packing his stuff And within that time of him packing his stuff, this was when the incident happened with Scott. So all of a sudden, there's this big bang. Do you remember you got the prison glass is really thin, right? So there's this big bang, and all you can see at the door is just like it's this black face, and like this cheek, like just all squashed up against it, and then just this fucking eye that seemed to be looking top left, but somehow communicating straight forwards. So he's like, "Yo, Barry, who's that?" Talking about me, and this is Mano. He's cool, blah blah. And he's going, "Barry, you know I want your cell, didn't you?" And the Barry's like, yeah, I know. You know, the gov told me, blah, blah, blah. I was like, all right, sweet. And off him and his eye went. I'm sitting there thinking, I just looked at Barry. Barry's like, look, he's not going to get it. Don't worry, he's not going to get it. Like, they won't take him from where he is currently. They won't move him. Because I said the guy was completely off his tits. And where they had him was sort of, the reason he wanted the cell we was in, I found out that our cell was in a good location because it was right by the stairs, by the servery, and on the first floor. So it was like a good location to be in. Scott was all the way down the end, right down the other end, tucked in the corner. They sort of kept him as far back as they could. So yeah, I just remember sitting there thinking, fuck, Barry's going and Scott's coming. Fuck! So anyway, and then so Barry leaves. Now I'm on my own, and I'm on my own for the rest of that day. We'd had Soch had happened at that point. We'd been out in the yard because you only get to go out in the yard once, and then what happens is like you get to go, like when you go out for your evening meal, you're in the landings where you've got a table tennis table. That was it in Pentonville. It was just it was one table tennis table, one fucking table tennis table in this massive wing. So it's one table tennis table, and then you'd have people on the stairs doing the pull-ups that I was talking about. So anyway, I came back to my cell, right? And it must, like, everyone they'd done the lock-up, they'd done the checks where they come around, they open your flap, and then they shut your flap, then they're off, and you hear it, and then they're done. Then about an hour later, all of a sudden I hear like footsteps coming along the landing, and I'm thinking, oh, where they go? And they stop outside my door. So I'm thinking, it's weird. Keys go in, clank, turn, obviously, and then the door comes open, and two prison officers stepped inside my cell. Now, that's strange, because that's not normally they'll stand at your cell for safety reasons, at the doorway. They won't step inside your cell unless they're coming in for a reason. So they've stepped inside my cell, and they've slightly, not all the way obviously, but they've just slowly pushed the door, not to a close, but near enough to a close. And they've gone, I'm thinking, what the fuck is going on? And they've gone, Mannion. I've gone, yeah. They went, Martin Mannion's son. I've gone, yeah. They went, don't let anyone know you're Martin Mannion's son. Because as I said, my dad and three of my uncles had worked, not only in Pentonville, on that wing. So I've got no plans on telling anyone. They said, all right, no problem. We're gonna, you'll be getting a move out of here within the next few days. All right, so what did they say about the cell? They said something about the cell I was in. It was something to do with Scott. They reassured me, don't worry, you know, you're not going to get, I can't remember, but it was to do with Scott. So obviously there'd been a conversation had about me, because obviously the officers knew that I was my dad's son, because some of them, like these two, had worked with my dad. So they left. And I just remember my heart, I was sort of relieved, thank fuck, but then I was thinking, yeah, no one can find out that I'm the son of one of the screws that worked here, and the nephew to another three screws that worked here. So yeah, that was a fucking moment. And as I said, they'd confirmed that, they just said within a few days. It ended up being a bit longer. It ended up being about another 2 weeks, because I was only in Pentonville for about a month, just over. But they said in a few days you'll get moved to a C category prison. So don't worry about blah, blah, blah. They left, as I said, so I'm thinking, all right, Kushti. And I also knew that Scott wasn't going to come in my cell in any format. No coming in my cell, Scott. With a fucking eye. So yeah, that was a relief. So anyway, I've been jabbering on. I'll leave that there. And on the next one, I did get a new cellmate. And what a fucking head case he was. He was all right and he liked me, thank God, but complete fucking head case. And I'll tell you about him. Chopper. It was either Killer or Chopper. No, it was Chopper. It was a yardie, a young yardie lad, like literally chiv all over his face, not slashes, but stab marks all over his face, all over his back. I mean, he was from Kingston, and he was a proper yardie. And for the remaining 2 weeks that I was in Wayland, in Pentonville, I went to Wayland, in Pentonville, I got to know Chopper in my cell, and fucking hell, what a story that is.